Hello and welcome to another episode of Cocktail Hour. Happy holidays, whatever you celebrate or don't. It's festive. It's that time of year. I got a little bit of decorations going on, but it's also special because we have two of our favorite people. One of them's laughing her ass off at me. But introduce yourselves as you love to do.
Hi. I liked this.
I have nothing festive outside of my my cocktail hour mug filled with hot apple cider.
Apple cider is delicious in the wintertime at the holidays.
Yep, it's very good.
All right. What are you drinking, Colette?
I'm having champagne cocktail.
Ooh, that looks nice and
festive.
Okay, I've got my bourbon-soaked cherries at the bottom. Yep.
Hold that up again. I want to see the cherries.
You see them?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Effervescent.
Ooh, sounds like the best of all worlds right there.
Are you drinking your mead?
I am. I actually opened the bottle, put it on the stove, put the little tea bag things in, the spice packet. Bang! Something delicious. This is my second mug.
Oh.
So you know, those of you listening and watching, expect craziness to ensue. Just saying. So,
I think that's fair.
I know, right? Little word of warning.
Yeah.
And speaking of word of warnings, we actually read for our assignment a nonfiction. Actually, I think it's more of a fiction.
I have to agree with you.
Right?
Yep.
It's titled "The Most Dangerous Animal of All: Searching for My Father and Finding the Zodiac Killer," written and narrated by Gary L. Stewart. Oh, I did the audiobook. So yeah, that's what our assignment was, and
I like that you refer to it as an assignment because clearly it was not a pleasurable read for you.
Well,
it was more of an obligation.
Yes, that too. Yes.
Yeah.
I think I'm the only one that finished it, right?
I finished it too.
Oh, you did?
I did. Colette, you did not finish this book?
No, I got to a point where I threw my hands up and I was like, "That's it. I'm not going to read any more of this because, yeah." Sorry.
I read that fucker on 2.5 times speed on the.
Oh well, did that make him sound more like a normal engaged person? Because he is a terrible narrator. He's terrible.
I don't know what you mean.
So when I listen to an audiobook, when you see that it's read by the author, I actually view that as a plus in many instances because here is a person who is deeply enmeshed with the subject matter. Any dialogue, they know exactly what the intended inflection was. They're in the heads of all the characters, like they get it. There's no kind of having to interpret anything. And yet he's so bad. It was very challenging for me. But ultimately that is not why. So I got well into part 2, right? So for listeners, part 1 is basically sort of the history of his mother and father. It's a story of him as an adopted adult, and then learning that his birth mother, has reached out to him, and then meeting her, and then we basically go through the history of his birth mother and his birth father, and then all the people that his birth father supposedly killed. And then part 2 is where we really get into the Zodiac killer and the murders that are attributed to that serial killer. And of course, this guy is making the case that his birth father is the Zodiac killer, right? So I got well into part 2 before I just was like, I can't listen to this anymore because, like, none of it's corroborated with anything.
No.
I mean, he is basically having conversations between his mom and the Zodiac killer, and where is he getting that information? His mother told him, I don't remember your father's last name.
I don't remember his full name. And then all of a sudden from that, yeah. Okay, before we go any further,
Uh-oh.
how about we read the blurb?
Okay.
Okay.
We're a little ahead of ourselves. We're drinking, crew. We're drinking.
I'm going to have to be the designated driver on this show.
Apparently. All right, drive the bus. Read something.
Apparently, which is fine. It's fine. Okay. It's pulling up now.
It's
Okay.
cool. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Oh my God, it's huge. So I'll read the first part and then we'll just go.
That's what I did with the book.
Yeah. Excellent.
Totally fair then. So soon after his birth mother contacted him for the first time at the age of 39. Okay, I'm already bored. So yeah, his birth mom contacts him and he goes and he meets with her and decides that he wants to learn more about his father. So I don't even fucking know how to describe what he did. He just started contacting people who knew him. It's really convoluted the way that he does it in the book. He goes back and forth about
And repeats himself ad nauseum.
Yeah, talking about what his mother does remember, information about his biological grandfather, his he goes into, let's see, for decades, the Zodiac Killer has captivated America's imagination. His ability to evade capture while taunting authorities made him infamous. The vicious specificity of his crimes terrified Californians before the Manson murders and after, and shocked a culture enamored. Yeah, all of that is true, but none of it has anything to do with his father.
Vicious specificity are not words that I would normally put together in a sentence.
There were a lot of things about this book that I would not have done. Let's see. Written with award-winning author and journalist Susan Mustafa, The Most Dangerous Animal of All tells the story of Stewart's decade-long hunt. While combing through government records and news reports and tracking down relatives and friends, Stewart turns up a host of clues, including forensic evidence, which is not true.
Nope.
Well, he turned up forensic evidence, just none of it had anything to do with this case or was corroborated in any way. That conclusively identify his father as the Zodiac Killer, one of the most notorious and elusive serial murderers in history. None of that is true.
Right.
So as far as having any links to the Manson family, which he talks about, like the whole last. So if you'd have gotten to the last chapter, Colette, you would have been mystified by a slew of murders and other cases listed out that had absolutely nothing to do with anything in this book.
Well, I mean, I thought the link to the Manson family was that he was alleging that his father hung out with Bobby Beausoleil.
Yes, he received
Well, yes, indirectly, but it was first a guy that founded the Church of Satan. What the hell was his name?
Anton LaVey.
Anton LaVey. And that's how they all met.
But Anton LaVey wasn't affiliated with the Manson family.
No. But
and he really didn't have
Anton LaVey played the organ at this bar, and then the supposed father, the biological father, wound up being a musician too, and then they got together by the music issues, and then Bobby was in some ancillary band or something. There was also
so he was a musician, and then he was also in a movie where he played Satan, and I've seen that movie, and it is
it's shitty.
Well, it's just like a little art film. It's not even like a movie, and yes, it's terrible. I mean, it's interesting from the perspective that you're looking at a couple of Manson family members in a Hollywood film before they kill people and get arrested. So, I mean, that was the only reason I watched it.
So he's tied to Anton LaVey because they had a conversation or two, I guess, and played organ or piano or something in the same place at some similar time. Apparently Bobby Beausoleil sent an email saying, I jammed with your dad. and then there's at least, I mean, there feels like I believe there was at least one complete chapter detailing the Manson family murders, which has absolutely nothing at all to do with the Zodiac killer.
Right.
And that brings that up repeatedly.
I think that is just meant to sort of lend street cred to the notion that his dad hung out with bad people and therefore is probably Zodiac.
Mm-hmm. From what I've seen on some different Reddit, some different subreddits and things like that, from people who have studied this case for years and years, just about everything in his book was discredited and debunked almost immediately. And I guess a lot of people believe that because the book was published by HarperCollins and they did a lot of media on it, that many of these things gained traction early on, but once they were debunked, there was no big media push saying, oh yeah, that's right, we got all this stuff wrong. It's all
right.
Well, so this I thought was interesting. Ultimately, though, even though this book, not a good book. It's very appropriate that we chose this book because on the 20th of this month, it will be the 50th anniversary of the first confirmed Zodiac killing.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Well, yay for us.
Yeah, so December 20th, 1968 was when he attacked that couple. So I was like, ooh, good for us. There's like tie-in. There's, so basically I was excited to read this book, and I will even acknowledge that I am the person who suggested that we do this book.
We were going to point that out and also remind everybody that the last 3 books that we've done were awful, and you suggested all of them. So,
is that true, though? I mean, I know I've suggested some awful ones, but all 3 of the last ones?
Yes. You did the full service, which I could not even finish. I got so.
Oh, but that doesn't count because we never did that one.
Okay. I'll give you that. Okay. And then the Spy Lover, which was pretty bad.
That was bad, but it was better than this.
You are absolutely correct.
Yeah, you're right. It was better than this one.
Yeah, but it sounds like you have a better suggestion for the next one. So, I mean,
I think he does. For real.
I do too. So, Andy and I had discussed it, and we were not going to allow you to do any more suggestions.
That seems fair. That seems
but
fair.
You see how we acquiesce already.
I have lost my recommendation privileges for now.
Oh God, that's awesome.
But now I don't remember where I was going with that. So basically, I was excited to read this, and then the more we sort of got into it, and then he started having conversations with people who aren't alive anymore, and reading them so badly. No, she cried. No. Really, dude? Come on, man. Come on. I mean, to me,
the book itself might have been more bearable had you, we read it with our eyes.
Or had there been an actor who did the audiobook who actually was able to do some sort of dramatic reading, but he was just terrible. It was like having Goober from Andy Griffith read a dramatic scene.
Oh yeah, no lie.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I did make some notes about. Let me close this up a little bit so I can actually.
You made notes. While you're looking for your notes, I got to make a comment. I am not adopted. I'm sure there are times when my parents would love to have said that, but I was really put off when this guy started referring to his bio parents as his quote unquote real parents. He did that quite a bit. And I got to tell you, I just wanted to slap the shit out of him because the real parents are the ones that raised his ass, not the ones that had a little fun in bed.
Fair enough. And let me say that I was put off initially, before we even delved into the absolutely fabricated conversations and scenes that he recounted later, when we're just in the parts where he was actually present in the room, right? Where he's with his adoptive parents, and then there's talk of meeting his birth mother, and all of this. And then we decided to pray.
For
There's
days.
a lot of praying that happened. And I mean, I don't want to cast aspersions on. Yes, I do. I do want to cast aspersions on people who are so religious that multiple times per day, anytime there's any kind of thing that needs to be considered or weighed, they have to stop what they're doing and pray on it. And there was a line at the post office, and so we prayed on it. Okay.
I know people, sadly, I know people that do that, followed by singing. Not only is they're praying in public, but they're singing, and it could be a restaurant, it could be a theater, doesn't matter.
Do they then speak in tongues?
No. And for all you Pentecostals out there,
But the important
Merry Christmas!
is
Merry Christmas.
evil spelled backwards is live. That may have been the most profound thing I got out of this book.
Me too.
All right.
Colette did a spit take.
I did. So, and I snorted a little like a piggy. So, and look, that ties me into the Manson murders.
Right.
Political.
Were your parents part of the Manson family? Because
Maybe,
you could totally write a book about that right now.
maybe I should pray on it.
I think you should.
Let's all do that.
Just because they didn't live in the area, that doesn't mean anything.
Oh God.
So once I got well into sort of part 2, and I realized that at no point were we actually offering any kind of evidence or supporting documentation of any of the things that he's recounting. I decided to go ahead and do a little research. Right, to just sort of see how this book was received. If maybe it was me, right? Maybe it's me. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with ZodiacKiller.com.
No.
It is a website that is almost as old as the internet.
Oh my God.
It's been out there for 30 years.
Wow.
And you can go and browse some of the stuff, but to get to like the discussion forums and stuff, you actually have to sign up as a user. So I went ahead and did that because all the things that I wanted to see seemed to be behind this firewall of, oh, sorry, you don't have an account. So I got an account, and then I got to their forum, and like nobody even has this guy, Earl Van Best Jr. Nobody even lists him as a potential suspect. And then I stumbled across this discussion board thread where somebody was like, I just finished reading this book, and I think it's weird that you guys don't even have this person as a suspect. He seems like he's the Zodiac killer.
Yeah.
And oh my God, these people who have been members on this forum for 30 years are basically like, take your shit and go. This book is bullshit. We wipe our ass with this guy's book. None of it is true. It's all fabricated. The claims that are made on the dust jacket aren't true. There's no forensic evidence that ties this guy's father to any of the murders, and blah, blah, blah. And then the author shows up.
What?
And the author created an account under his father's name, Earl Van Best Jr.
Oh, that's kind of creepy.
And at first I thought, well, this isn't actually the author. This is just some weird trolley guy, because he's like, ha ha, you guys just can't accept that I'm the actual killer. Ha ha. And I'm like, this is just weird and creepy. But then at some point, the guy who runs the website, like, posted the info from a direct message, and it's this guy. It's Gary, what's his name? And I'm like, wow. So not only is he a terrible narrator, he's kind of a dick.
Yeah, he sounds like kind of a dick.
Yeah.
Just reading the book, much less the bonus features.
So, I mean, kind of at that point, I was like, there's no way that I'm going to go back and listen to the rest of this because I feel like I'm just wasting my time. I mean, I'm already kind of chapped. And then you sort of find out that the author is sort of a dill hole.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm just not motivated really to listen to any more of this. So
Yeah.
at that point, I was like, okay, done.
I don't blame you.
But
Well, Sherry, you had notes, right? Did Sherry have notes?
I do have notes. Hold on, I'm trying to turn down the damn
Are they,
volume.
like superfluous now because we pretty much just slammed the shit out of this book.
Well, and I do have something exciting that has to do with the actual case.
What? Please share.
Yeah. So, all right. So when we read the book by Michelle McNamara,
Yes.
Please help me with the title.
Midnight.
I'll Be Gone in the Dark or something like that.
I'll Be Gone in the Dark,
There you
which
go.
was a wonderful book.
Yes.
Who recommended that one? I'm assuming it wasn't me.
It was me because I had already read it. It was so good.
Okay. Yeah, well, I thought maybe. Anyway, so the DNA evidence that they are used to solve the Golden State Killer,
Yeah.
they are doing for the Zodiac.
That's fantastic.
And that's very recent. And so basically it is going to rely on relatives, some potentially even distant relatives of the Zodiac Killer to basically submit this DNA testing and get added to this repository that the FBI has access to, because
Awesome.
they have his DNA.
From licking the stamps on the envelope?
But they also suspect that somebody else did that. So they're not 100% sure that that's actually his DNA.
Well, I mean, if they are able to identify relatives, they can
Exactly. I mean, it would help. Maybe Gary Stewart can finally have his DNA tested.
Maybe.
I mean, okay, so there were a lot of weird things that, and from what I saw, there were several people who posited that he decided that his father was the Zodiac Killer and then went out to search for anything that would support that thesis, right?
That's how it felt. Yeah.
So, the whole him solving the 340 cipher, complete and utter bullshit. That his father's name has 13 letters and the 13 cipher had 13 letters. That's also bullshit. You can even some of the letters didn't even change when he was trying to make that fit. Nobody has solved the 340 cipher. They've had fucking supercomputers trying to solve this thing, and they can't. And he's like, "It's easy if you know what you're looking for." Well, yeah, if you have a puzzle that has 340 bizarre characters in it, and you want to make a name fit in there, well, then did you solve the rest of it? And he's never shared any of that information. Hold on.
Puzzle. You had to say puzzle.
I did.
Was that Salvador Dali?
It is.
Wow, I'm impressed.
It's my very favorite picture that Salvador Dali did. And one of my coworkers knew that and found it.
That's nice.
And I said, I don't know if I had the patience for this bullshit.
How many pieces is it? 1,000?
1,000.
Oh,
you'll be foldable card table in your closet.
After you solve it, you'll know who the Zodiac Killer is, though.
Thankfully.
It has the cipher at the bottom. Okay.
I think it was your mom, Andy.
It was my mom.
I think it was. Pretty sure.
My mother can't even kill a roach. Get out of here.
All right, so I found some of my notes.
Okay, yay.
Okay, so he spends the last part of the final chapter listing a load of crimes that have nothing to do with the Zodiac. What the fuck? There was one of my notes. So in the book, one of his father, started hooking up with his mom when she was 14. He wooed her. Essentially, he's a child molester.
Yeah, he was 28.
Yeah, he's 28 years old.
Let's concede that yes, while your father was somebody gross,
Dudes, that's disgusting.
that doesn't make him the Zodiac killer. That just makes him a gross pedophile.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, granted, the guy was a piece of shit.
Kidnapper, pedophile. What was the other thing to add to his list?
He was a document forger.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the stuff. Okay. So anyway, so he has this friend named William, who, he doesn't seem to have a lot of friends. Most people don't seem to like him much because he's an arrogant douchebag.
Although he was friends with Bill Bixby.
They went to school with Bill Bixby.
That threw me. Yep, I remember that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So he seduces this young girl, and they run off together, and he gets a friend of his named William to help. William doesn't know that the girl is 14 years old. He thinks she's, what did they say, 19, something like that.
Shit.
And so then later on, the author Gary gets in touch with William somehow, and he's, like a lot of this book, it's just Gary talking to people who knew his father and have absolutely really nothing of substance to offer to the argument that he's the Zodiac killer. But so in the book, William says that Van had impeccable grammar, but if you read the letters from the Zodiac, they're filled with misspellings and slang and kind of off the, and not anything by any stretch could be called written by somebody with impeccable grammar. His mom, I guess, has come forward and refuted loads of stuff that Gary put in the book.
Wait. Biological mother?
Yeah, Judith. She's come forward and I didn't see any of that, but I saw several people mention that they've seen emails and other documents where she has said that's not true, that Gary's fabricating a lot of stuff. And Gary in the book said something at the very end about how his mom, doesn't want the truth to come out, and he accepts that, and that's fine. He gets that.
Can I just say, I think Gary has an inferiority complex.
I think Gary saw a way to make a shitload of money and gain some notoriety, and not much more than that. I think there's I'm just thinking about like all of these different conversations and suppositions about what Van was thinking or doing, and how he saw this this building, or he doesn't know any of that shit. Where did any of that come from?
Right.
I don't know.
It's just like made up. He has all of complete sections of things coming from Van's point of view, and there's no evidence given to anything. Did that just come out of his head?
Like the first murder, right? The girl that he waits for, and he carves something onto the table.
Yeah. The first one that was the first murder that it took a long time for them to even decide that it was part of the Zodiac killer.
Yep.
Sherry something. I can't remember her last name.
Mm-hmm.
But you remember the Sherry.
And then she worked at a library.
Right.
But somebody else was somebody else.
Sherry from the library.
Yeah, I'm a time traveler.
But you're still here.
None of that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Colette. It was just none of that has anything to do.
No, I was just giving you an example of what you were saying. These All right, so that whole scene is from his father's POV. He's thinking this, he's doing this, and then he sees her, and she reminds him of Judy, and blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah. And then he goes, and they have this conversation, this man and the dead girl, and then he kills her. Like, where the hell did any of that come from? Like,
Yeah.
there is nothing that could be corroborated by anyone. So that is 100% fiction. It's not like somebody was standing there and heard that conversation and was able to relate it. I mean,
Yeah,
so maybe some of this would have made me less incredulous as a reader if it wasn't written in the POV of these people who are gone.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Right? I mean, please, if this is what you think happened, then piece it together in third person and explain to me how you got there. Like, where is the information? Where is it coming from?
Yeah.
Yes.
Who are the people that you received tips from? How did you piece this together? But instead, to just present it as a scene from your father's POV,
Which
that's
I think
fiction.
he did that with every single example of any of the murders. So essentially, this is what I'm feeling like he did. Like, he had up on a board every single murder attributed to the Zodiac killer, and then went, okay, for this one, I bet he did this. Because there's nothing more than that could possibly have happened.
Yeah.
And and he goes through this whole thing about how his father locked him in the Foot Locker and all of that shit. Well, later on, he's talking about getting a copy of the police report for that the mother had filed against him, or filed at some point. I don't know. It was going really fast because I was super tired of it. So I imagine as soon as I heard that he had that report, because I believe she denied parts of his account of how that happened too. It said in the police report, according to him, that he had been put in the Foot Locker. And I'm betting, I imagine that's how he got all of this stuff. And then to say, well, this one detective wouldn't release any information, wouldn't release his father's police record, and just said there's something horrible in it that will destroy your lives, or some shit like that. Well, could it possibly be that he abducted and molested a 14-year-old girl and had a history of pedophilia? Could that maybe be it? Oh no, let's just automatically assume that he's a notorious serial killer.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
Yeah, it was just like the whole thing was just complete and utter bullshit.
Yeah, couldn't get any of that time back.
Yeah, I found a review that somebody had done, and it's so incredibly long, and there's there's no paragraph breaks or anything like that. Oh, talking about that fingerprint.
Yeah.
So did you get that far? I bet you didn't get that far in there. Okay,
No,
so,
but I know what you're talking about, right? Supposedly there's a fingerprint that has a scar across it.
Right, but the scar doesn't match up, so they have to flip the image of the fingerprint backwards, and then I want everybody to look at their fingers. How many scars do you have on your fingertips? I know I've got quite a few.
Yes, all that leather.
Exactly. So you're talking about somebody who I don't. You know what? If you can make it till you're 30-something years old and not have any scars on your fingertips, good for you, because I'm betting most of us don't. But if I have to manipulate something and realign it, and nobody would confirm that either. Nobody. I can't make a confirmation. It's just let's take all the evidence and then twist it and
try to manipulate it to fit your narrative. So, how long was this book? Hour wise. I think
it was like 11 or 12.
You know what's really super sad about all this? And I'm pulling it up right now. 10 hours and 48 minutes. So those of you listening and watching, 10 hours and 48 minutes that we cannot get back on our lives. And then we're talking about it on this show. Seriously.
But this is going to be cathartic. Like once we do this, it'll be like venting our spleens and then
vomiting out the things that irritated us. Yes, but
yeah, and then we'll be done with it.
Yeah.
But I think supposedly the other claim that he made was that there was a handwriting match.
Right, which is also bullshit. Yeah.
Right, because apparently the thing that they used for handwriting was the marriage certificate, right, between the 28-year-old father and the 14-year-old mother. Ew. But then people came forth and said, well, he didn't fill that out. The justice of the peace or whoever filled that out. So apparently that dude is the Zodiac, which is terrifying.
And so they had 3 signatures and this marriage certificate that he didn't fill out. And it's interesting too. My mother said that he filled it out. Your mother couldn't remember his last name, and
exactly that was like the thing at the very beginning. That was like the first thing that set me off of this. Just what? That doesn't make any sense because according to the story. Right? She is a 14-year-old. She meets this older guy. They start dating. He convinces her to run off with him. He convinces her to marry him, which they do illegally because she's not of age. Right? So then they find them and she goes back home. And then he convinces her to run away with him again and that they will go to his father, who is a clergyman, and his father will marry them. So she agrees, right? And then they run across the country and he tells his dad, hey, you need to marry us. And he's like, are you crazy? She is a little girl. What is wrong with you? And so they go, instead, I think they go to Mexico, right? And get married. Again, this is a guy who is forging like literary documents and selling them as, first editions with signatures, and all of it is fake.
And they wouldn't marry him in Mexico either.
I mean, so how jacked up does it need to be? That you can't even run away to a foreign country that you think is going to help you out. And they're like, oh, yeah, we don't know you, dude, but this seems hinky. Yeah. So, and yet we're supposed to believe this story. Yeah. And so ultimately they live like married people for several months. She gets pregnant. She has a baby. She is raising the baby and then also working, I guess, as a cocktail waitress. Like, this is something that spans quite some time. And we're supposed to believe that she does not remember his full name.
Yeah, it's BS.
I mean, to me, that just tells me none of this shit happened.
No. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
I mean, if you married somebody twice, don't you think you'd probably remember their name?
Yeah.
Probably.
Especially if you put your baby in a damn Foot Locker. Come on, man.
And then he just ends up like riding into town and dropping the baby somewhere.
In an apartment complex.
Sets it inside a little cubby hole somewhere and goes back and's like, it's cool. The baby will be fine. Somebody's going to take care of it.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine.
So after in this review that was I found in one of the subreddits, after talking about some of the other things, he says the only remaining evidence said to link Best to the Zodiac crime seemed to be little more than trivia. Best somewhat resembled the composite sketch of the Zodiac.
That's true.
He was reportedly in California during the time of the Zodiac murders, but he was also in a load of other places too.
Yeah.
He was in Europe. He was in Mexico. He was in Louisiana. He liked
Mississippi.
Gilbert. Right. He liked Gilbert and Sullivan operas. And Stewart spends a load of time talking about, oh, well, he loved the Mikado, and the Zodiac Killer did. Well, that cinches it, because nobody else, knows that. He had some interest in ciphers when he was younger. But he managed to devise a cipher that no one has been able to crack.
Was that the secret decoder ring from A Christmas Story?
Yes. Make sure you drink your Ovaltine.
Yeah, that was his big. He allegedly knew a Satanist and allegedly played music with a murderer. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, once we kind of got to that point, didn't it feel like we were really grasping at straws of, this guy knew a lot of notorious people.
Yeah, it was like, it was like in Spy Lover, where, they were everywhere, where all of the big people in the Civil War were. It's
this guy was like the Forrest Gump of serial killers.
Yes, he knew everybody. Yes, and Best was an immoral person who may have committed crimes. Yeah, that's pretty much all you have, really. He kind of looked like it. And Stewart's big epiphany is when they showed, he saw the composite sketch of the Zodiac Killer, and he calls his 10-year-old son in, and the kid goes, "Oh my God, it's you!" Well, there you go. Get that kid on the case.
Oh my God, so wrong. But so right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we read the shitty books, y'all, so you don't have to.
Maybe we could change our tagline to that.
So sorry. I really thought this had potential to be good.
This is like the literary version of MST3K, Mystery Science. Am I right? Right?
Oh my God. Right. Yeah. Well, so we're looking at doing a Chuck Wendig book next, and I'm really glad that you.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think. Well, and here's the thing. So for our next shows, we've got
Itchy and Scratchy show. What was this?
That's me thinking. We've got Fletcher Delancey coming in January to talk about her newest book in the Alcee series called
Resilience, right?
Resilience. Yes, I like to think of it as Resistance. And I've read the book. It's good. If you're a fan of Fletcher, you're gonna love it. Huh?
You give it away.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying.
Don't give it away by saying that it's good.
I could a piece of crap. I'm just saying.
Colette didn't recommend this one. It's a good one.
So it's going to be good. Okay.
And then I think in February we're working on getting. We're trying to work out scheduling with Susan Maher.
Yep.
And potentially in March, possibly Bev Prescott.
Oh, possibly.
Did you forget that?
No. I did not. We will work it out. We will work it out. I can't go that long without Colette. God damn it. I can't go.
Well, you
3 months.
Do what you need to do. I'll be here.
No.
I think Colette would really, I think that you might enjoy Bev's book quite a bit, actually. It's a climate fiction. It's a little futuristic, dystopian, ass-kicking woman. So,
hell yeah, man.
Yeah, you might like it. But we'll work it out. I know, and if we can't, maybe we'll push either. If we can't make Susan work, Andy's gonna make me stop.
Say no more. We will figure it out, listeners. Don't worry, we'll figure it out. You will have top-notch entertainment, whether we like the book or not. Doesn't matter. We will be here.
That's right. But for sure, we got Fletcher coming up next month. We're not 100% sure on the date yet, but it will.
Yeah, the 5th is confirmed. I got the text.
Okay.
January 5th is the date. 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will get the link out on Facebook for y'all. You don't want to miss it.
Yeah, so there. So we still have some time. Let's talk about a better book, a really, really good book that all three of us listened to along the top, one of the topics that we discussed quite a bit today. Andy, go ahead.
Are we talking about Jonestown?
No, the Manson book.
That was my second.
Yeah.
You finally finished the Gary what's his
LeGuin?
name?
Stuart.
The author.
Gary
No.
Stewart is the guy who wrote the book that we just shat on.
Jeff
Yeah.
Quinn.
The other one. Jeff Quinn.
Yes.
Right. On the life and times of Charles Manson.
Yeah.
You finished it, Sherry?
Yeah.
Was it not awesome?
It was. One thing,
Amazing.
so I think Andy's listened to the audiobook at least 3 times now. And Colette is actually the person who recommended it to us. Unfortunately, we didn't do a show on it, but it was.
No. But now we have, because we just said it out loud.
And what?
We just said it out loud, so now we have. This is a show.
Oh, there you
And
go.
now we're talking about it.
That's true. So that one can wipe this one out. Yeah, it's long, and I was worried that it would be really dry and just really filled with nothing but facts. And I was so pleasantly surprised that it is filled with facts, but it's also super engaging.
It is.
It went by very quickly. I wanted to know more. I never knew so much about that case, and there was not any of it that I wanted to fast forward through. There were actually several times when I rewound just to make sure that I caught exactly what the meaning was. It was fascinating, and definitely recommend it. It was so interesting because even though it says that it's the life and times of Charles Manson, and you get all of his background, his life, but you also get an incredible amount about the family and certain individuals within the family. You get a lot of detail about them and their life, but it's never bogged down at all. It's so good.
And it also talks about, what was going on in the nation, in America at that time that contributed toward the perfect storm that was, the end, the culmination of the murders with the Manson family. It was just incredible.
And that I found so incredibly important.
Yes.
And that's left out in a lot of the other things that I've seen about the Manson family is you really can't discuss it in a vacuum because so much of what made the family come together and the actions that they took were incredibly relevant to the cultural situation, the rise of the Black Power movement, the Vietnam War, the hippies, the whole hate
action. The runaways.
Yes.
Yeah. It really was just an incredible book. Really.
Yeah, agreed. The reason that I liked it so much is because prior to that book coming out, I felt like, the quintessential go-to book about Manson really was Helter Skelter, right? By Vincent Bugliosi, who was the district attorney who tried the case in court.
Yes.
It really was, again, not a short book, very detailed. But it really was, from his perspective, everything is just so like, what? I just don't understand how this happens. How do people get like this? You're still left, you're basically left terrified because you just don't understand how these types of things happen, and it's so horrifying. But this book completely demystifies Manson because it addresses him as a child, what kind of an upbringing he had, what kind of a relationship he had with his mother, what his mother was like, what his distant relatives were like, what their interactions with him were as a child, as a young adult, how he ends up in jail, all the time that he spends there, what that does to him, and how him coming across a book like How to Win Friends and Influence People, basically, I mean, and it makes perfect sense, right? Because once you read this book, then you understand that he is just like a textbook sociopath.
Yes.
Right? I mean, any other book that I read prior to this made him out to be this terrifying,
Like mesmerist guru.
yeah, like
kind of.
Svengali kind
Yeah.
of, and he is just not that at all. I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately, he is a sociopath who, through trial and error and making poor decisions, and meeting people here and there, learns to tell people what they want to hear.
Yep.
I was fascinated by that whole thing after he found that book, how things really changed.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's one of those classic books that you see or you hear about, and it's like, oh, okay, that's fine. But to see that book, you know, how to influence people, it was just like, wow, he really took those lessons to heart. And use that information. That kind of blew me away. I think that was like one of the facts of the book that stands out to me as holy shit. Yeah. I just would never expect, you know, something like that. That was incredible to me.
I don't think Dale Carnegie had Manson in mind when he wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People.
It would be, you know, that would be a really interesting, you know, how you get the little blurb quotes on reprints.
This changed my life, Charles Manson.
But seriously, folks, if you enjoy true crime and a really well-woven odyssey, definitely read Jeff Quinn's The Life and Times of Charles Manson. It's good.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
And the audio was very well done.
Absolutely.
The guy that did the audio, he sounds just like one of the guys from NPR. And I went back a few times, like, are you sure this isn't the dude from NPR? And I can't remember his name, but I think, yeah.
The Road to Jonestown is actually, it's another Jeff Quinn book and an audio, and it's awesome. So that, I think, did you start that yet, Sherry?
I haven't. I got caught up in other stuff and then listening to this shit awful the fire of the book. But after the new year, I'm dedicated to getting some books that I've had on my list for a while.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I think we're going to do a Chuck Wendig. There are a couple other books that I wanted to throw out to both to you two, as well as anybody else who's looking for some good reads. Before you started talking about Chuck Wendig, I was going to suggest Orphan X by oh my God, it was right by Greg Hurwitz.
By who?
By Greg Hurwitz.
Okay.
I think that's backwards, but it's called Orphan X. It's a series, and it's about this assassin essentially who helps people as a sideline. And when I first started reading it, the first book, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get into this, and it seems kind of cheesy and over the top. But as I got into it, I really fell in love with this character. I've read the first 3 books in the series.
Wow!
And I just got from the publisher, I got an advanced copy of the 4th book, and I'm really excited to get into it. It's no more over the top than like a Jason Bourne or one of those action films, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I found it fun, and the guy, like, everything he has is like over the top spy gadget, and he's this emotional dude. But there's some other really good characters in there. There's a female assassin in there who is I really wanted to see a whole lot more of her. She was just hilarious. I think both of you would probably like it if you give it a chance to get into it a little bit. I really liked it a lot. And the audiobooks are on Scribd. Started reading the first one. I started reading the first one with my eyes and then found the audiobooks on Scribd, and I was like, score. Yeah, the narrator does a fine job. And they were fun. It was just a fun, easy read, And then the other one, and I actually got a couple of copies of this for the teenage girls in my life, is the Bear and the Nightingale. And I know I brought this one up before. It's a story about a badass little girl who it's set in like medieval Russia. So you get a lot of, or maybe not medieval Russia, I don't remember when, but a long, long time ago. And it has a lot of mythical creatures and stuff like that. And essentially she's just a really big badass. So it's
I tried to read that.
You might have. I think I tried to get you to read it. Colette, I think you might like it. Andy, you are so tough to get something. I'm always thinking, oh, she like this? Well, she might not. I think you would
voice it on you now, Colette. Colette's like, I don't know about this.
Yeah, so give it a shot. It's gotten fabulous reviews and been on bestseller lists, and it's kind of like one of those series to read that folks are really talking about a lot, and I loved it.
And what's it called?
The Bear and the Nightingale. And the audio is awesome because you really get to hear how the Russian words are pronounced. I did kind of a mix of the audiobook and reading it with my eyeballs, so I could see how things were spelled and stuff like that. But it's just a beautifully done. The writing itself is gorgeous. It's just beautiful. So it's just a really awesome fantasy.
I like them.
So the first 2 books of the trilogy are out. The third, I think, comes out in January. So,
cool.
Yeah. So if you got girls in your life that want to read, or boys, that my son has started it too. So that want to read a kick-ass young heroine.
I just like kick-ass. I don't care if it's male or female. Although you get more male kick-ass usually than you do get female. I think that's one of the reasons why I like the new Super Wonder Woman movie so much. Because that was just badassery. Just loved it.
Oh, and there's new Xena comic books out. A whole new omnibus. So yeah, so you can look at those too. They've kind of redone the series. I think Dynamite Books puts those out. I've read a few of them, and they're fun. They're fun.
How can you not like Xena, seriously?
Huh?
How can you not like Xena, seriously? That's some awesome badassery there.
And she, it's got a lot of good humor in it. These 2 new series that they've got out. The writing is fun. The relationship between Xena and Gabrielle is ambiguous, I believe.
That's awesome. Because that's the way it was in the show, kind of.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the show. But yeah, so I think any fans of Xena, if you're looking for gift ideas for fans of the show,
right?
So check those out. I guess that's probably about it for us.
Yeah. Alexa's like, did you call me? Well, thank you all for tuning in. And again, we all wish you the best for the season. And we'll see you in the new year.
All right, then. Happy holidays.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.